Welcome to JCon!
Good morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Good? All right. So, yesterday, Richard started the conference with our years of service in terms of using Java. And I just want to see if things changed in one day. Did anything change in one day? Let's see. 1 year of using Java. Raise your hand. 5 years? 10 years? 20? 25? And 30? Okay, if you have your hand up, 30 is actually next week, so you're a little early. I'm unbelievably honored to be invited to celebrate 30 years of Java here at JCon. JCon is also celebrating its 10th edition this year. It's a great combination of two important milestones. If you don't know who I am, my name is Sharat Chander. You can call me Shar. You can call me actually anything you want. But at the end of the day, I'm actually here for you. Our team at the Java Developer Relations organization at Oracle is here for you. As much as great as Java is as a technology, what gives it its heartbeat is the community. And as we celebrate 30 years of Java, we're going to cover both sides of that in terms of how do we make the next 30 years just as vibrant as the past 30 years. If you want to move into the future, you have to also reflect in terms of what happened in the past. And we're going to do a little bit of that. But before we start, I think I'm ready. Who's ready? I had a little bit of a ribbon overdose yesterday. Go downstairs, collect the ribbon of the technologies and the organizations you're part of. I can't wear this anymore. This is too long. We'll put that aside. Please follow me on Blue Sky. I'm more active there now than any other platform. Maybe LinkedIn is a second option. You can easily find me. But I would love to connect with all of you at some point, either in the hallway track, in the Oracle booth, online. We're here for you. I also want to say thank you to someone who's not here. Some of you might recognize who this is, some of you may not, but this is Simon Ritter. He's a Java champion, longtime member of the Java community. He's also a longtime colleague of mine. So he started his journey at Sun Microsystems on the Java team back in the late 90s. I still remember my first day on the Java team working on NetBeans, working on Swing, working on release management, and that was on December 8th of 2000, and probably it shows. Maybe I'll have another color next year besides white. But this entire presentation has inspiration from Simon. He contributed to it. He gave me sound bites. He gave me examples for years when I wasn't there, and I think we owe him a round of applause and thanks for being part of JCon this year. So thank you, Simon. And maybe we can get him here next year, right? He should be here in person. So whether you've been using Java for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, soon to be, we have to reflect on the past. And so in a galaxy, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we have to think about what the world was like in that era. All of you are so lucky in terms of where we live and what we use in terms of technology at this point. Everything is a lot simpler, a lot easier, a lot more rapid. We have to keep pace. We have a lot of things to our advantage that weren't there 30 years ago. Does anyone have an office still like this somewhere? Because if your office still looks like this, we need to talk. But this was the norm. You had to go into the office, you had multiple devices, applications running on those, very complex, all trying to accomplish a lot of business value. But to get to that business value, you had a myriad of language choices that introduced typesafe, the notion of a virtual machine, the notion of object-oriented programming. The challenge we had back in that era was you had to have multiple teams, expert on specific languages, delivering oftentimes common business solutions that span multiple applications. And I have to tell you, that is extreme overhead. You had to train yourself, you had to be well-versed in a very specific lane, deliver that value, deliver that innovation, and then working cross-organizationally was extremely challenging because you are now talking in different languages. There was no commonality. There was nothing that binded us together. There's no simplicity of taking your innovation from a technology standpoint, developing it in a unified way on a single language, a single platform, allowing you to focus on that business value. And so here we are, Sun Microsystems back in the early 90s, known primarily as a server company, a chip company with this Spark chipsets, high-end servers. Hardware is interesting, but hardware has value when software is running on it. My father always used to tell me that hardware is just an expensive paperweight. It is, if you think about it, and we've had this debate many times, what's more valuable, the hardware or the software? Well, that hardware has no utility unless it's doing something. And that's why software is important, and that's why it's important that we have a language that can address all of those opportunities that hardware provides. But in the era we lived in, hardware had different architectures, different chipsets, different power, different memory consumption. That's a lot to juggle. That's a lot to take into account. That's a lot of overhead. And so a team at Sun Microsystems, bored with focusing on the hardware side, wanted to do something that was a bit more cutting edge. And I'm sure you recognize one individual in particular out of these four horsemen here. Literally was getting ready to leave Sun. James Gosling wanted to work on something cool, and the leaders at the company said, we cannot lose this amazing individual who has so much talent that can foresee the future and utilize that intelligence about what may happen and make it a realization today. And so they worked on this journey. Behind a green door, some of you might remember the history of Java, but literally the beginnings of Java happened behind a literal green door in the office in Menlo Park, where they started to work on how do we look at all of that hardware? How do we look at what the next innovations around the internet, as it was just coming up, that we could do in a unified way to offer productivity and efficiencies to all of us as developers? So in 1992, the work began. And of course, everything needs a project name. In this day and age, project names are very cool. It was not heard of back in that era. The early days of Java was known as Project Oak, and yes, this is a true story. James literally looked out the corner office of his window, saw an oak tree, and said, Project Oak, that is what we're going to work on. Trying to focus on different hardware, different devices, different use cases to integrate in a unified way. And more importantly, something that was translatable. Something where you could take innovation and ideas across applications in one single programming language. What was their first target environment? Now, we're so lucky right now. We have this amazing supercomputer. Where'd my phone go? Someone took my phone. Okay. You carry a supercomputer literally in your pocket. Your mobile phone is the equivalent of some of the high-powered supercomputers of the early 90s. And in that era of supercomputing and HPC was also this notion of media. And one of the first use cases for Java, before it became known as Java, was set-top boxes. We had no way to interact with the device in front of us, whether it was your monitor or your TV. And so they started working on an interactive remote control device with a interface that you had a touch screen that you could interact with to actually translate commands from the set-top box programming device to the actual TV screen. And if you scan this QR code, you can actually watch an amazing 9-minute video by James about the very first prototype. That's where you can take out your camera's phone, folks. That's right. There you go. In terms of how to utilize this device to engage with multimedia. Now, if you look at that, that's pretty large. Right now, our form factors fit in our hand, fit in our pocket, fit on our desk. This was a rather large device, and it had significant limitations, power and memory. Now, it's so cute. That interactive device also had a character that you engaged with on the screen, and also something very unique in that era was the notion of having a mascot, something that represented the technology that people could identify with, what developers could have a connection with. And literally on the screen was this little character here, designed by Joe Parlang, who was one of the engineers at Sun, who came up with a character that bounced around the Star 7 device as an interactive component on the screen. One of the original names was Fang. So if you ever in a bar trivia contest, you will know the original name of Duke was Fang. Kind of looks like an upside down tooth. That wasn't the intention. Also, Duke is genderless. Remember that as well. But Joe went on to do some great things. He left Sun, went on to Pixar, worked on movies like Shrek, still is kind of active today in the animation field. But this is a profound shift for us. It's one thing to look at code and see how amazing all of the features are, or what it can do for us, but when you have an identity to it, Duke embodies all of the goodness, all of the innovation, all of the investments, all of the community energy that Java represents. So with that set-top box idea, James and a lot of smart people at Sun tried to sell this concept of an interactive set-top box to Time Warner, and it failed miserably. But a lot of failures is because we're too ahead of the time. I think we can all look at examples in history of technology that was well ahead of what the market was ready for. And so we had to look at what was the next thing that Java could do. What was the next thing that it was able to address in a meaningful and easy and efficient way? And that was the era of the World Wide Web. I mean, we're so lucky right now, pick your browser of choice, it does what you want. In that era, the interactivity, the value that browsers presented to you was rather limited. But Java had an ability to address that dimension, that use case as well. And so with Mosaic in '94, we also then worked with Netscape, and as many of you know, that was the birth of the concept of write once, run anywhere. Develop your application, target it to a use case, whether it was on the desktop, the web, back-end servers. Java had that ability to address all of those use cases, so you could then focus on the business logic, which, by the way, another little trivia, how did we end up on Java? Now, that's an interesting question, I think was lost to time. We need to go maybe ask James more often. He maybe doesn't have a recollection. But these are some of the names that were debated as the name of what we call Java today. Can you imagine if we referred to Java as Ruby? It would be a little bit odd in this day and age, or Silk or DNA or any of these other names. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't just resonate. Java just has something emotional and visceral. And so much like our applications, we wanted to brew something of value. The metaphor works with the terminology around Java. So what also helped the adoption of Java? We take it for granted now with this explosion of conferences around the world, and it's amazing to see conferences like JCon and others where we can meet in person and understand our fears, our uncertainties, our doubts, our desires to learn more, our ability to convey our best practices in our industry, share it with our peers. But Java 1 was literally the start of something phenomenal in the industry. There isn't a technology, whether it's Java or something else, that doesn't have something of an in-person experience, because that's actually where the innovation happens. You might think it happens behind closed doors with an engineering group. Java was literally the first technology that embraced this concept of community, where the user participates in the future of what it will look like as a consumption of that technology. And how many people here have been to Java 1? Anyone? Okay, we need to change this. Somehow we need to fix this. I encourage you to take a look at our official YouTube channel, youtube.com/Java. We just reintroduced Java 1 again this year, back in March. You can take a look at the collection of all of our sessions. But more importantly, we hope you can join us in 2026 for the next edition of Java 1. It's another great place, just like JCon, to understand and connect and collaborate. Which, by the way, this is actually how I started my career. Yesterday, when Richard said, how long has everyone been using Java or has been in the industry, I raised my hand because it goes back to actually 1995 when I was at Verizon. At Verizon, we had some very complex issues in telco. As we were moving from telephones with copper coming to the home, entering the mobile environment, entering the feature phone environment. We're so lucky we have these smartphones in our pockets. Feature phones were just the first generation of those smartphones. We didn't have a way to write applications efficiently to address this market. And so a lot of smart people at Verizon said, you know what, we're hearing about all this innovation happening in Silicon Valley. I went to Java 1, that first one in 1996, thinking I'm going to learn and start this journey about this amazing programming language that could fundamentally change our business at the company. What I learned was it wasn't just about learning the technology. It was about meeting the engineers. It was about having those hallway tracks. It's also a matter of understanding there's more people like me than I thought. And from that first Java 1, I went to my first Java user group meeting. Does anyone know which was the first Java user group on the planet? Raise your hand if you know. I'm kind of curious. Kai, the New York Java Special Interest Group was the first. If you get a chance, visit a local Java user group. I know Richard talked about that yesterday. It is the place where you can accelerate your Java knowledge and your ability to contribute to the next 30 years and beyond. And what did Java do? It helped solve a lot of complex problems in many easy ways. And here's just a catalog of many of the implementations of where we use Java. If you had a Kindle, it ran Java. If you had a Palm Pilot, which we don't need anymore because our smartphones actually accomplishes a lot of tasks for us where we don't have to multiple devices, utilize Java. If you have a credit card, who has a credit card? I think we all do, yeah. It's running Java card technology on it to handle transactions in a secure fashion. And so, or a Blu-ray player. Does anyone still have a Blu-ray player, even if you're streaming content on your streaming services? I still do. I love the interactivity. It was a great way to actually expose Java. And what so many consumers did not realize is where and how prevalent Java was or is in the world we live in. It's not front and center. It's underlying. It's below the scenes, but it powers a rich collection, whether it's smartphones, whether it's kiosks at the airport for ticketing, whether it's smart printers, whether it's your back-end servers, whether it's your desktop applications. It is just prevalent around the world in terms of what we use, and we should be all very proud of it. And in fact, all of you have contributed to it in some meaningful way. Now, this was a game changer. A lot of people have thought that Java has been open source since its inception. When Java was created, it was actually built on open standards. We didn't actually open source it until 2006 through the OpenJDK community, which is actually where you all can go and collaborate with us to ensure it is innovative based on your feedback. And by making it open source, we created a whole network and ecosystem of other distributions, other partners. Co-optation occurred, but we have this fundamental belief that rising tides raise all boats. So even though we're doing the investment, we want to ensure there's a broad ecosystem of options and opportunities in the industry. So this was a fundamental moment in terms of the shift, in terms of what Java established. Because if you look at it now, so many technologies embrace this concept of start with open source, have a contribution model, build a community, and then business value can be derived from it. And so here we are. Java has evolved, both in terms of the logo and Duke. It's entrenched in everything that we do, which, by the way, I still have a preference for the original logo. It just doesn't work well when you're creating merchandise. It's a lot to stitch. But it's still fundamentally stayed the same. It's evolved thoughtfully, both in terms of the image and the mascot, and just like the technology. It's also rooted in our entire world, whether it's as a clue in the New York Times, being referenced in cinema, like The Big Bang Theory in Silicon Valley, often referenced in those shows, or 7 times it's been featured on a trivia show called Jeopardy. It's now prevalent, not just in terms of us as developers, but in mainstream society as well. And regardless of what language ranking you look at, which, by the way, this is not about a language war. We're not going to get into that. It's not about who's the best, who's first, who's second. It is important to understand what is still popular. And Java continues to be one of the most popular programming languages for all of us, whether you've been using it for 1 year or 30 years. But we can't rest on our laurels. It's great in terms of how entrenched Java is today. If we want Java to have value for the next 30 years, we need to do this thoughtfully. We need to innovate on the edge, but also be conservative to ensure all of the past investments still have value today. Is anyone still running Java 17 in production? 11? 8? Oh my God. 7? 7? 1.6? Okay. There was 1.5? All right. Anyone that had their hand up with running in production Java 8 or an earlier release, please visit the Java booth. We're going to have a thoughtful conversation. I want it to be very therapeutic. But I understand a lot of you have issues or challenges, oftentimes that are dependency related, where sometimes your third-party dependencies aren't moving as fast. And so you want to maintain, if it's not broken, why fix it concept. So this concept of conservatism is we still want your Java application, when you are ready to move, to be able to just seamlessly come up to a more modern version or release. So we still should be at least on 17, please. We'll work on that. But what are we trying to do? The next 30 years are moving at an extremely rapid pace. The velocity of technology has never been greater, and it's not going to slow down. Us as the leaders of Java have to be very thoughtful in terms of the innovation and the areas that we focus on. We look at chip architectures, power consumption changes, which is sort of disappearing now. We also have to understand the changing paradigms, this whole notion of AI, which, by the way, as much as I love it, it's still in its infancy. It needs to grow just as a child and mature. But we also want to be ready for that future. And so we're oftentimes, on the Java team, we have a target on our back. Either we're not moving fast enough or we're moving too slow, but we have to balance that. A lot of times we look at our world in terms of Java consumption just through our lens, in terms of our specific use case. But let's multiply that out. There's over 10 million Java developers on the planet. Tens of thousands of enterprises, all across different verticals and use cases, whether that's aerospace and aviation, finance and banking, e-commerce and high-performance computing. That's a lot to factor in. And so we want to ensure whatever enhancements we inject into every release is there for the next 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. When it becomes the standard, we want to make sure it doesn't break, that it has the highest quality of security and stability and performance. And if we just reflect a little bit in terms of where we are, just these past 5 years, Java hasn't slowed down. I was kind of impressed in terms of the pace of innovation around Java in its early days. But what has transpired these 5 years is just incredible, because the Java of the past is not the Java of today. It's more robust. It's actually pivoted in a very thoughtful and incremental way in terms of the problems and challenges and opportunities that it's addressing. If we just look at the JVM, for example, it's literally the machinery that's running your code. And we want to make that as efficient as possible so you get better performance, faster speed, and efficiencies without any notion of having to change a single line of code. And we have so many projects just focused on the JVM. And in some ways, the JVM really is the secret sauce of what makes Java so vibrant. We look at what Java's doing in terms of being more data-oriented. Now, Java has always been great in terms of code optimization, but we also want to have it focused on data optimization. Again, a lot of investments so we can make it easier to develop prototypes and script well for your applications. And more importantly, it's not just the enterprise developers that matter. We also have to think of the next generation, so we're working on features and have started releasing features that allow our early learners, students, and teachers to adopt Java so they have an on-ramp into the future as well so they can join us. At the end of the day, we want our Java ecosystem to be as inclusive as possible, not exclusive. We also want to ensure that the threats of tomorrow that are oftentimes visible today are addressed in every release. So we continue to focus on security features to make Java extremely robust in terms of your application development. And of course, as I mentioned, AI. The world is changing very fast. Just like anything else, new tools can sometimes be very disruptive. I know some of you might have been at sessions yesterday, might go to some sessions today about AI. The fear of, is it going to replace me? I'm pretty confident that it won't. It just means we have to adapt. We as developers have to understand that there will always be new tools that become available that makes us more productive. And we just have to incrementally adapt with that innovation and that change. Whether you're doing it with Gen AI and integrating models, integrating it into your apps, we have features that we're focusing on that next cutting edge of getting Java prepared and ready for addressing the AI market. As great as all of that innovation is in terms of features and releases, this to me is the most fundamental game changer we have introduced over the history of Java, and that's the 6-month release cadence. I know a lot of people, when they first saw this, were very fearful about what is this going to do. It's moving way too fast. In fact, right now, we're already getting feedback that 6 months is still too slow. We have taken the release model and turned it on its head. Many of you who, again, I saw those hands go up, whether you're using Java 5, 6, 7, 8, these were fundamentally what we will call disruptive releases. We call them big bangs. It took multiple years to get out the door, filled with a pipeline of features that took also multiple years to understand how to use them. And just when the next release was available is when you were probably just ready to use the previous release. And we don't like disruption. Disruption is expensive. It's time-consuming. It's painful. And so what the 6-month release has done is it hasn't accelerated throughput in terms of new innovation. What it has done is reduced latency, because as the market evolves and changes and the velocity increases, we can streamline thoughtfully incremental innovation at a much more approachable pace so you can embrace new features in smaller sets as you move along. And that's something to be extremely proud of. It boggles my mind when I see these statistics in terms of just how prevalent Java is in the world, in terms of just the sheer volume of JVMs that are running across different industries, different organizations, different applications. That 30 years of innovation continues forward today. I've never seen a more richer pipeline of what's possible and what's on the cutting edge with Java, whether it's in Project Valhalla, Panama, Amber, Babylon. All of these projects at OpenJDK are places you can go to find out what the next generation of features will be to address your application needs. I'm sure It doesn't matter what I say, but if you just look at the market, perhaps some of you came on an Uber ride or car share service today. Maybe you were streaming a video before you sat down, or watching some of your favorite shows last night as you were binging on the last 7 episodes or so of your favorite show. Or maybe you were on LinkedIn this morning. All of these organizations are running Java. And there's a long laundry list of named companies that understand that Java brings business value because of you. You make that innovation possible. And that's why I want to pivot a little bit to the community side. Fundamentally for Java, as great as it is as a technology, it's the people that make it possible. This mantra of people first, technology second is what gives Java its lifeline, its blood, its pulse. We focus on people because if we don't know what your needs are, we can't innovate for the future. If we don't understand what your pain points are, we can't solve that. And so it's inherent that we have a very close relationship with all of you, and I mean all of you. There's many mechanisms to do that. We have foundational programs that we need to continue to invest in, because as we build, grow our ecosystem, we also want to nurture the relationship with those individuals who are already here. What message does it send to the next generation if we're not taking care of the people who are already there? As I mentioned, OpenJDK, the community, this is your place to participate. This is your place to innovate with us. This is your place to come with us on this journey. There's various roles you can take in OpenJDK to help with that innovation. And I encourage you to please just visit openjdk.org to find out what role and what abilities there are that you can have to shape Java. Java user groups, as I said, there are over, I think, last count, 374 recognized Java user groups around the world. You probably have a close user group in your city, in your location. If you don't have one, please talk to us. Come to the Java booth. We can give you some best practices and ideas how to start one. You can also join the VJUG, Virtual Java User Group, if you don't have something and just want to experience the content online. Another great dimension of how these volunteer organizations are adapting and changing to the landscape in terms of how we can all connect. Which, by the way, I do need help. Although we have a Java user group on every continent, we don't have one on Antarctica yet. It's a stretch goal for us, yeah? What do you say? I think we need to do that at some point. I'd like to visit Antarctica. There are also some important people I'd like to highlight by name. I made sure I had a list. These are some individuals who've been working in Java for at least the last 20 years in terms of driving community innovation. Frank Greco, Mark Heckler, Donald Robb, Freddie Gieming, Nate Shuda, Gene Boyarsky, Mala Gupta, Chandra Gunter, Matthias Carlson, Vincent Myers. I think Vincent's with us today. Is Vincent here? Or is he catching sleep? All right, Vincent, I mentioned your name and you're not here. That's one demerit. You may not get a t-shirt later. Dan Vega, Venkat Subramaniam, Richard Fitchner. Where's Richard? I just want to thank him personally. Thank you. Pratik Patel, Heinz Kibbutz, Justin Lee, Daniel Hinosa, Rustam Mamendanov. All of these individuals are part of a user group, but they're also part of the Java Champions program. Now, who here doesn't know what the Java Champions program is? It's okay if you don't. Okay. These are independent, third-party developers who speak authentically about Java, who help other developers embrace Java, increase their knowledge, but also drive community participation. There's only so much we can do on the Java team, both from the engineering side, from the DevRel team side. The Java champions are an extension of us who go around the world inspiring all of you to become better Java developers, but also better Java community members. One of the most fundamental game-changing programs that we've had, and you can now see it in our industry, how many Luminaire programs there are by enterprise, by vendor. Just this past 6 months, we added 4 new Java user groups. I'm very proud to see that we're expanding also now in Africa. We also introduced 5 new Java champions these past 6 months, and in fact, just last Monday, we announced 2 new Java champions. In fact, I think we're lucky enough to have one of them. Here's Patrick here. Patrick, congratulations. When we aren't there, the Java champions are. You need to find one, connect with them, converse with them. Visit dev.java. We have information in terms of how you can connect with Java champions. These are your extensions beyond just all the content that you can absorb online. But let's not forget, as great as the community is, we also have a fundamental responsibility on the Java team to keep you educated, to keep you informed. Some relatively new programs and projects that we've launched, dev.java. This is our centralized portal for tutorials, for community information, our Java Playground, an in-browser experience to test out new code. It's also a great platform for students to understand how Java looks like before they actually use it. Inside.java is our aggregation of all the content from our Java engineering team and developer relations team. Tagged by content, tagged by topic, tagged by person. So if you want to follow Ana Maria Mihalciano, where are you? There she is. Or where is he? Nikolai Parlog, two members of our DevRel team. You can follow them, read their content. Or our engineers, if you want to follow Brian Getz, he has a long collection of publications, and find out about various projects and innovation that we're driving. And recently, we just launched learn.java, a portal specifically for students and teachers to pave them for setting up themselves for entering the workplace as more experted Java developers. So if you're a student or a teacher or know any, please, I encourage you to educate them and share learn.java with them. The last 30 years has been extremely interesting. As I said, it's all about people, and as great as our engineers are, and they are very great, our developer relations team is the heartbeat, the thankless heroes in terms of what's out there. All the information, all of the content, all of the conversations, all of the interviews. These individuals put in a lot of time off the clock, sacrificing oftentimes personal time to ensure all of you stay connected. And trust me when we say our ear is on the ground. Nary an hour of the day in a 24-hour clock is one person not online, checking, listening, responding as best we can. We are here for you. We want you to be better developers. We want you to be better community participants. And that's why I'm so humbled when Richard came up here yesterday and today when he said, it's all about the human connection. The next 30 years of Java, it will continue to evolve. The technology will be there, but it's so much more interesting when we can share ideas and best practices, things we're afraid that we may not know, and understand there's probably 10, if not more people that share that same concern. And if we share and collaborate together, it's just going to make that horizon even more vibrant. Now, it's also important to recognize these past 30 years some fantastic individuals who have been almost an extension of our DevRel team, who are not just Java champions, who are not just user group leaders, but have done so much more to enrich all of us. And I'm sure you recognize some of the individuals. In fact, I think we have Bruno Souza here. Bruno, could you come and join me real quick? So, thank you. Thank you for coming. Bruno is also one of the original members of the Java evangelism team at Sun, who went around the world, starting in Brazil to proliferate Java usage throughout the country, throughout the government, in fact. And many governments now are literally operating on Java. But it's important that we honor individuals that have contributed so much of their professional and personal time. And I think I'd like to add a fifth person to this list today. Drum roll, please. And yes. Bruno, maybe you can hold that?
Yes, sure.
All right, so
okay.
Today...
Should I hide the name right now?
I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but right. One individual who's just been an amazing contributor to Java these last 30 years is a gentleman I am extremely proud to know and consider not just a professional colleague, a friend. He's been a professor, he's published many books. He's also very prevalent in conferences, sharing his knowledge, and that's Kai Horstman. Where's Kai?
Woo-hoo! Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Kai is a man of a few words, but he will share more if you visit him in the hallway track. I have to tell you, I learn more from Kai than probably most people. I read his books. He doesn't know that. I've told him that many times that he needs to be more visible than he already is, but there's only one of him. So take advantage of Kai while he's here. Visit him in the hallway and establish a connection so you have that relationship and professional source of Java experience. So thank you, Kai.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like for Bruno to stay here. You wanted to say a few words also.
Yes, the only thing I want to say is that, we're talking about, you're here, you guys are spending a lot of time and effort to be here, right? You stop in work, you're getting away from your family, so use that time to come and meet those people, right? So Kai's here, come meet him. You mentioned Patrick, right? So he's going to do a mentoring right after the keynote. He's going to be doing a mentoring at the Mentorship Hub. They are here all the time. And it's up to you to go find them in the highway track, in the Mentorship Hub, in the one-on-one meetings, and come talk to us, right? All of us. Many, many times we are there, we don't know who to talk with, right? And if you come and approach, it's going to be a lot easier. So thank you.
Thank you, Bruno.
Thanks, Sharat.
All right, wait. Bruno's from Brazil. I never got the Brazil chant. No?
No, you have not, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
Brazil, right?
There we go. All right. There we go.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sharat. Thanks
All
a
right. I would like to ask a favor. If you are part of the Java developer relations team, I know you know who you are. Could you please come up, please? If you are part of our extended Java relations team, whether it's on the Graal VM team or Oracle database team that also work on Java, could you also please come up? Come this side. Over here. If you are a Java champion, could you also please come up and just line up?
Well, this would take a while.
Nope. This will be very fast. Come, please. Hurry up. Yep. Hustle, 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 hustle. Emily, let's go. Jonathan, just jump over people. Please. This just represents the tip of the iceberg of all of the experts that are available for you to connect with globally. You have amazing individuals such as these people here standing up who I'm so humbled to know, who know I can trust to ensure that they are connecting with you. And one thing in particular is, Kai, there you are. Sorry about that, Kai. Is we are celebrating the 10th edition of JCon. Things like this don't happen all that often. For something to reach 5 years of execution is sometimes a miracle. 10 years is extreme well planning and organization. And so I think it's only right that I have these amazing human beings up here on stage with me to also thank Marcus and Richard for 10 years of JCon. Where are you? They're not here. Richard, he's already here. Where's Marcus? Please. You're welcome. The only thing is, you all have to promise that you'll at least come back to one, if not more, and for the two of you, that we can have a celebration when you have 20 years of JCon. As I said, Java is a journey together. With us on the Oracle team working on Java, other parts of the company that's working on Java, the community, the luminaries, the Java champions, the user group leaders. These are the individuals and organizations and people that are going to make Java vibrant for the next 30 years and beyond. So with that, before we finish, I need you. I need your help. There's some T-shirts behind you. We're going to do a T-shirt toss a la Java 1. There's 5 here. But We also have more in our Java booth, so after this session, please visit us and we have more. But there's 5 lucky winners, we'll get them right now. The question is, who are you going to hurt? Okay.
I just drove?
Oh, so should we see who has a stronger arm?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, maybe you go first. All right. All right.
Can I people raise their hands?
Raise your hand. Who's a T-shirt? All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your JCon. Please visit us, get more T-shirts. And thank you to all of these amazing people right here.